Picture this. You think you know what drives love, desire, and human attraction, but beneath the surface of every relationship, there are currents so old, so primal, that most people never even notice them until it's too late. This is not fantasy, not gossip, not another recycled internet myth. This is truth grounded in decades of science, studies spanning cultures, continents, and generations. And the deeper you look, the more shocking it becomes, because it challenges the comfortable illusions most people carry about men, women, and love. What you are about to hear may rattle your beliefs, but that's the point. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from seeing clearly, from peeling away the layers of illusion until only reality remains. Decades ago, an evolutionary psychologist named David Buss embarked on what became one of the most ambitious studies ever conducted on human mating. He wasn't interested in one city, one country, or one narrow slice of humanity. He wanted to know the truth that cut across borders, across languages, across religions, across every cultural wall. Over 10,000 people, across 37 cultures, from the skyscrapers of New York to remote African villages, from the temples of Kyoto to dusty towns in India, were asked what they valued in a partner. And when the data came in, it was astonishing. Across all those boundaries, across all that diversity, patterns emerged. Not random preferences, not cultural quirks, but deep consistencies, as if human nature itself had carved them into stone. Women, when asked about long-term partners, leaned again and again toward financial stability, ambition, and social standing. It wasn't just about money, it was about security. Could this man protect, provide, elevate her life and her children's lives? Could he be relied upon when the storms of the world came crashing down? That mattered more than fleeting charm or temporary passion. Men, on the other hand, focused consistently on youth, health, and fertility cues, clear skin, physical vitality, signs of reproductive strength, the signals of life, of continuation, of passing on genes. Two different strategies, shaped not by culture or fashion, but by survival itself. Think about what this means. Your desires are not just personal quirks. They are not just your type or something you came up with after scrolling on social media. They are older than civilization. They are written into your body like an ancient script. Women historically gravitate toward security and stability because survival demanded it. Men gravitate toward youth and vitality because biology wired them too. These aren't shallow preferences. They are ancient strategies for survival, coded into us long before anyone invented Instagram or dating apps. But this only explains the surface, the what men and women tend to want. It doesn't touch the why behind every heated argument, every spark of jealousy, every inexplicable moment of passion or withdrawal. Because desire isn't just about preferences, it's about triggers buried so deep in the psyche that they play out whether you notice them or not. And if you don't see them, you can't control them, they control you. Take jealousy. It's one of the ugliest feelings, yet one of the most revealing. In the early 90s, Buss and his team posed one devastating question to men and women across cultures: which would hurt more, sexual betrayal or emotional betrayal? The answers revealed something primal, something that explains centuries of conflict between men and women. Men felt a gut-wrenching, visceral pain at the idea of sexual betrayal. It wasn't about pride. It wasn't even entirely about love. It was about survival. Deep down, the ancient fear whispered, "What if I'm raising a child that isn't mine?" That single possibility haunted male psychology like a shadow, and so sexual betrayal became the ultimate wound. For women, it was different. They reported unbearable pain at the idea of emotional betrayal. The thought of their partner's love, resources, and attention being invested elsewhere felt like death. Not because women are insecure, not because they are irrational, but because for thousands of years their survival and their children's survival depended on his commitment. If his heart wandered, their security vanished. Emotional bonds were lifelines, and losing them was catastrophic. And what's striking is how universal this was. From Brazil to Japan, Nigeria to Canada, men and women reacted the same way. Cultures divided by oceans, religions, and histories showed identical instincts. These weren't random quirks of personality. These were survival strategies hardwired into DNA. That flare of jealousy you feel, that sudden suspicion when she seems distant, that stab of pain when you picture her with someone else. It isn't random, it's the echo of millennia. Your biology sounding alarms it doesn't trust your logic to handle. This should make you pause. Because if these ancient survival codes still govern your emotions, it means most of what you think is personal choice is actually evolutionary programming. Your anger, your fear, your attraction, your jealousy, they all come from instincts older than you. Instincts designed to keep your ancestors alive long enough to reproduce. It's not weakness, it's human nature. But here's the twist most people miss. Understanding this doesn't make you powerless, it makes you powerful. Because once you can see the hidden programming, you stop being a puppet to it. You can master it. And mastering it is crucial, because biology is only half the story. Culture layers on top of these instincts like paint on a canvas, reshaping how they look, how they are expressed, and even how they're judged. In one era, financial stability meant hunting skills. In another, it meant land ownership. Today it means income and influence. The instinct hasn't changed, but the context has. And if you don't understand how context transforms instinct, you'll end up lost, wondering why the same woman who praises independence also craves security, why the same man who promises loyalty is tormented by sexual suspicion. Every argument, every conflict, every flash of passion or heartbreak in modern relationships still carries the fingerprints of ancient survival strategies. You can dress them up in modern clothes, you can explain them with therapy or philosophy, but underneath it all, biology whispers the same truths. Men fear betrayal of the body, women fear betrayal of the heart, and both are fighting not just for love, but for survival, whether they know it or not. So the next time you feel that irrational pang of jealousy, that sudden shift in her mood, that inexplicable distance growing between you, remember, it isn't random, it's the ghost of evolution walking through your relationship. And if you can learn to see it, to recognize it, then you have the chance to master it instead of being mastered by it. That is the first step toward clarity, toward control, and toward understanding why love feels like war as often as it feels like paradise. Now imagine this. You're sitting across from her, you think you've figured her out. She says she's not that sexual. She says she doesn't think about it the way men do. You believe her. But her body, her choices, her sudden shifts tell another story. For years, researchers believed they had uncovered one of the deepest secrets in female psychology, the so-called ovulation effect. The claim was bold and almost frightening. During the days of peak fertility, women unconsciously shifted their preferences. Their attraction leaned toward men who radiated dominance, men with sharper features, broader shoulders, symmetrical faces, men who carried the aura of strength and genetic health. It sounded like a hidden switch, as if biology was secretly pulling strings, choosing mates in ways no one could consciously control. When that idea hit mainstream headlines, men panicked. Suddenly, guys began to wonder, is she with me for me, or is she secretly drawn to someone else when her body shifts into fertile mode? Am I just a placeholder until biology demands she seek out the archetype of masculinity? It triggered insecurity, suspicion, even fear that attraction could never be trusted because hormones were writing the script. But the reality, as more research poured in, was far more complex and far more human. Follow-up studies across the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom revealed that the so-called effect was subtle, not overwhelming. Yes, there were faint shifts in preference. Perhaps she found masculine markers a touch more appealing during those fertile days, but it was never decisive, never so strong that it could rewrite the deeper bonds that truly matter. What really drew her in was not the shape of a jawline, not the fleeting signal of testosterone carved into bone. It was presence, it was confidence, it was the way a man carried himself when he entered a room. These qualities overpowered biology because they weren't temporary, they were enduring. A strong jaw can capture attention, but confidence holds it. Broad shoulders may spark a glance, but emotional intelligence keeps it. In truth, women are not slaves to biology. They are influenced by it, yes, but they are also shaped by psychology, culture, and above all by the stories they tell themselves about who they are and who they want. This matters because it reveals the real battlefield of attraction. Men worry endlessly about what they cannot control: height, bone structure, genetic luck. They miss the truth that the strongest forces of desire aren't hidden in DNA, but in energy, in presence, in the way you make her feel. You can't grow taller or change the symmetry of your face, but you can cultivate calm confidence, grounded masculinity, and emotional clarity. And these, study after study confirms, outlast fleeting biological shifts. They make you the man she desires, not just in one fertile window, but across years, across changing seasons of her life. But while some instincts fade in the light of culture, others remain as sharp and ruthless as they've always been, only hidden behind modern masks. In 1995, psychologists Nicole Crick and Jennifer Grotpeter revealed something that had always been there, lurking in schoolyards, whispered in hallways, sharpened in adult relationships but rarely spoken aloud: relational aggression. Unlike boys, who often fought with fists, girls developed weapons that left no bruises but cut far deeper. Gossip, exclusion, coldness, subtle humiliation, the slow withdrawal of affection or attention. These were the silent wars of the female world. Invisible to outsiders, devastating to those inside. Think back to the school years. Girls who froze one another out of friend groups, whispered rumors behind backs, deliberately excluded rivals from invitations. These weren't accidents, they were strategies, and those strategies didn't vanish with age, they evolved. In adulthood, relational aggression often takes the form of silent treatment in relationships, a sudden cold withdrawal that leaves a man confused, guilty, desperate for resolution. It appears as subtle undermining at work, eroding reputations with hints and whispers. It shows up as withholding affection, creating insecurity and imbalance without a single word. And here's why it matters to you. If you can't recognize it, you can't defend yourself against it. Men often mistake relational aggression for random mood swings, for pettiness, for immaturity. But it is far from random. It is strategy. It is evolutionary weaponry designed to test loyalty, protect hierarchy, and maintain control without ever breaking the surface. Once you begin to see the patterns, once you recognize that the sudden coldness is not chaos but a tactic, you stop reacting blindly. You start responding with awareness, and that awareness transforms the power dynamic. Now pair this with another hidden force, one that feels tender, magical, almost intoxicating. Oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone. Every time you touch her, every time she shares a vulnerable thought, every time intimacy deepens, this chemical floods her system, weaving invisible threads of attachment. It makes her feel closer, safer, more connected. But here's the twist most people never hear. Oxytocin doesn't work the same way in men. In women, it intensifies emotional bonding, increasing the need to share, to open, to attach. In men, it often triggers protectiveness, sometimes even competitiveness, a sharper edge of vigilance. The same chemical that pulls her closer can make you more alert to rivals. It doesn't just bond, it guards, it watches, it warns. One hormone, two realities. And this is why relationships feel so maddening at times. The same moment that makes her feel deeply connected can make you feel restless, protective, even tense. She leans in, wanting more closeness, while you feel a subtle pull to guard the bond from outside threats. Neither is wrong. Both are biology, both are the silent programming beneath the surface of every relationship, and the deeper truth is this: love is never just chemistry. It is not a simple formula of hormones and impulses. It is the collision of biology, psychology, and culture. Biology sets the foundation, psychology builds the architecture, culture paints the walls. Together, they create the house you live in, the house you call love. And most people never realize they are trapped in a house they didn't design, reacting to instincts they don't even see. But when you start to notice, when you see the jealous flare, not as irrationality but as ancient survival, when you notice the sudden coldness, not as randomness but as relational strategy, when you feel the surge of oxytocin differently in your body than she does in hers, you stop living blindly. You begin to understand. And understanding is power. The power to navigate relationships without being blindsided, the power to stay grounded when emotions rage, the power to move through love with clarity instead of confusion. That is what separates men who are constantly confused, desperate, reactive, from men who seem untouchable, calm, magnetic. The second group sees the currents. They understand the forces beneath the surface, and because they see them, they are no longer controlled by them. They control themselves. And in a world where almost everyone is blind to these invisible dynamics, that makes them extraordinary. Picture this. You think desire is simple, that love is guided by obvious choices, by what people say they want. But step back and look at the world we live in, and you'll see something else entirely. Biology might whisper in the background, but culture shouts in the foreground, rewriting attraction, bending psychology, reshaping relationships in ways that would have shocked our ancestors. Even David Buss, the giant of evolutionary psychology, admitted this openly. Biology sets the stage, but culture writes the script. Think about how radically that script has changed in just a few decades. In the 1980s, surveys showed women consistently prioritized financial stability, ambition, and status when choosing a partner. It made perfect sense in a world where women's economic opportunities were limited. A partner wasn't just about romance, he was survival, he was security. But now? Fast forward to 2025, where women outnumber men in universities across dozens of countries, where female CEOs run billion-dollar companies, where independence is no longer rare but expected. Suddenly, the script shifts. Financial security is no longer irresistible by itself. In fact, a man who leads with money but lacks emotional intelligence often gets discarded, overlooked, dismissed. She doesn't need your wallet, she needs your presence. Culture doesn't erase biology, but it reframes it. The drive for security is still there, but now security means something different. It's not just the ability to pay bills or buy a house, it's emotional safety, it's psychological grounding. It's the man who can stay calm when she feels chaotic, who can hold his frame when the world collapses, who can listen without judgment when she reveals her darkest fears. That is the new currency of attraction. The men who understand this thrive. The ones who cling to outdated scripts thinking money alone buys loyalty are left behind, confused, bitter. But culture doesn't just reshape women's desires, it reshapes men's expectations too. For generations, masculinity was defined by dominance, control, providing, protecting. Today, men are being told to be vulnerable, open, communicative, sensitive. And here lies the paradox: while society preaches emotional vulnerability, attraction still rewards men who display calm strength. Women say they want a man who shares everything, but when he overshares, when he collapses emotionally, when he turns her into his therapist, attraction quietly fades, not because she is cruel, but because her instincts rebel. She wants to feel safe with you, not responsible for you. She wants you to share your truth. Yes, but without losing your center. Vulnerability is powerful only when it comes from strength, not from weakness. This cultural contradiction is everywhere. Social media celebrates soft boys and safe men, yet the very same women who clap for those posts find themselves pulled toward men who radiate unshakable calm. Why? Because beneath the cultural noise, biology still whispers, and the whisper is clear: competence, confidence, grounded presence. That is what calms her nervous system. That is what triggers her trust. That is what unlocks her desire. Scroll through TikTok, romance novels, Netflix dramas, and you'll see archetypes replayed endlessly. The billionaire who could have anyone but chooses her. The mysterious man who reveals his heart only to one woman. The beast who becomes gentle in her arms. These aren't just fantasies. They are cultural mirrors of ancient instincts reframed for a modern audience. They reveal what has always been true, but now dressed in different clothes. The man who commands the world but surrenders to her. The man who is calm in chaos but alive in her presence. Here's what most men miss. Culture evolves faster than biology, and if you don't adapt, you'll keep showing up with outdated strategies. You'll keep thinking she wants what your father's generation was taught to give, while she's already moved into a new paradigm. If you're stuck clinging to money, status, or dominance alone, you'll wonder why she's cold, distant, uninterested. But if you adapt, if you learn to embody calm strength, emotional intelligence, and timeless masculine presence, you become rare in a world where men are either too aggressive or too weak. But culture also does something more dangerous. It creates illusions. Instagram feeds filled with curated perfection. Dating apps offering endless options. Movies portraying relationships that never exist in reality. These illusions distort expectations. They make ordinary men feel inadequate and ordinary women feel unsatisfied. They fuel comparison, envy, insecurity. And what happens when insecurity meets biology? Chaos. She questions whether she could do better. He questions whether he's enough. Trust erodes not because of reality, but because of illusions pumped into our minds every single day. This is why awareness is everything. If you can't see the illusions, you'll be controlled by them. You'll chase validation instead of connection. You'll compete with fantasies that don't even exist. But once you see it, once you realize that social media is just modern myth-making, you stop competing. You stop chasing. You root yourself in reality, and that reality becomes magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who isn't fooled by illusions, who isn't shaken by cultural noise, who knows who he is no matter what narrative is trending online. And here's the paradox that will blow your mind. The calmer you become, the crazier you drive her. Not because calmness is passive, but because calmness is power. It's rare. In a world addicted to dopamine, chaos, scrolling, endless distraction, the man who is still, grounded, present becomes like a drug. He regulates her nervous system. He lowers her anxiety. He makes her feel something she can't feel anywhere else. Safety in desire, desire in safety. That combination is intoxicating. That combination rewrites her psychology. So culture will keep shifting. Trends will keep changing. Instagram will keep shouting. But the men who learn this one truth will always remain magnetic. Calm strength cuts through noise. Calm masculinity drives women crazy, because it taps into something deeper than culture, deeper than trends, deeper than illusions. It taps into the ancient core of desire itself, updated for the modern world but never erased. And the man who embodies this isn't chasing women, isn't begging for attention, isn't bending to cultural confusion. He's simply standing, calm, strong, grounded. And because of that, she leans in, almost against her own will, drawn not by illusion, but by the undeniable reality of who he is. Imagine this. She's sitting across from you. Her phone buzzes with endless notifications. Her mind is racing from work, friends, pressures, insecurities, the storm of modern life. But then she looks up and sees you. Calm, still, centered. In that moment, her world slows down. Her nervous system relaxes without her even knowing why. She doesn't feel like she has to perform. doesn't feel like she has to chase validation, doesn't feel like she has to keep up with the noise. You are the quiet eye of her hurricane, and that contrast is what makes you unforgettable. This is the secret most men never understand. Women are not searching for constant entertainment, for endless drama, or for chaos disguised as passion. They are searching for grounding, and grounding doesn't mean being boring. It means being so stable within yourself that you can handle her storms without collapsing. It means being so certain in your own value that her shifting moods, her insecurities, her tests don't throw you off balance. Most men fail not because they lack money, looks, or intelligence, but because they lack emotional gravity. They are tossed around by every wave instead of becoming the rock she can anchor to. Think about the men women fantasize about in stories. The king who leads with quiet authority. The warrior who walks into battle without fear. The mysterious man who doesn't rush to speak, who listens, who observes, who makes every word count. These men are not frantic. They are not chasing approval. They are not desperate. They are calm. And their calmness doesn't make them invisible. It makes them magnetic, because calmness is confidence in its purest form. Confidence isn't the loud guy at the bar. It's the man who doesn't need to prove anything because his presence already proves everything. Now here's the paradox. Calmness isn't passive. True calm masculinity is active energy under control. It's the fire you know is there, the strength that could erupt if necessary, but chooses discipline instead. It's why a calm man can be 10 times more intimidating, more powerful, and more attractive than the loudest man in the room. She knows you're capable of chaos, but you choose calm. She knows you have power, but you wield it with precision. That selective restraint drives her wild because it means your control is intentional, and women trust intentional men more than impulsive ones. When you master this, you stop trying to chase women. You stop worrying about what line to say, what trick to use, what strategy to memorize. You realize you are the strategy. Your presence, your groundedness, your ability to stand in silence without fidgeting, to look her in the eyes without flinching, to walk into a room and own it without saying a word. These are the signals that bypass all cultural noise and go straight to her instincts. She may not even be able to explain why, but she will feel it. And feelings, not logic, are what decide desire. So ask yourself, are you calm or are you chaotic? Do you fold under pressure or do you hold your frame when the world tests you? Do you need her validation to feel like a man, or do you already know you are one? These questions matter more than your bank account, your jawline, or your status updates. Because when you embody calm masculinity, you're no longer competing with other men. You've moved into an entirely different category, one she can't ignore. And here's the final truth. In a world addicted to speed, calm is rare. In a culture obsessed with noise, calm is radical. In relationships filled with games, calm is irresistible. Women don't lose their minds over chaos, they lose their minds over the man who can stand in chaos and remain unshaken. That's why calm, masculine men drive women crazy. Not because they're trying, but because they're being. And once you become that man, once you master that presence, you don't just attract women, you attract respect, you attract opportunities. You attract a life where you're no longer chasing, because everything worth having begins chasing you.